Behind America's Mask. Prologue. The year is 1968. In the humid, oppressive air of Saigon, where the constant thrum of helicopter blades was the city's new heartbeat, Lieutenant Commander Elias Vance stood on a rooftop. Below, the city was a tapestry of neon, fear, and desperation. He wasn't looking at the flashes of distant mortar fire, nor the frantic cycle of choppers descending on the American embassy's roof. He was looking at a folded, yellowed piece of paper, a letter, tucked into the breast pocket of his crisp uniform. The letter was dated August 10, 1945, from Los Alamos, New Mexico. It detailed not the glorious success of the gadget, but the chilling, almost unbelievable reality of its genesis. Elias hadn't read it in 20 years. Not since his father, a quiet physicist who worked on the Manhattan Project, had slipped it to him on his deathbed. "Elias," his father had whispered, his voice dry as the desert air, "this is the cost. Not the bomb, but the lie that built it. The lie that built America's new face. They told us it was for freedom. We built it on a ghost." Elias understood ghosts. He was in Vietnam to hunt one, a ghost of Soviet influence and communist insurgency. But the ghost his father spoke of was different. It was an American ghost, a historical echo of a betrayal so profound it had been carefully masked by 2 decades of Cold War rhetoric, atomic swagger, and engineered prosperity. It was the ghost of Operation Starfall, the truth of America's industrial and military ascent, and the unimaginable sacrifice, or rather the forced labor, that the nation had silently accepted in the darkest corners of World War II. It was a secret that could unravel the very foundation of the modern United States, proving that the arsenal of democracy had been forged not just by patriots, but by a network of forgotten, enslaved European scientists and engineers, their histories meticulously erased. Elias clutched the letter. The time for denial was over. The lie that had built the mask of American exceptionalism was cracking under the stress of Vietnam, civil rights struggles, and a pervasive national distrust. If the mask was to be torn away, he had to be the one to do it. Chapter 1. The Manhattan Shadow. Los Alamos, New Mexico, August 1943. Dr. Elias Vance, a theoretical physicist with a nervous tic and eyes that perpetually held the distant terror of the quantum world, hated the desert. He hated the dust that coated his lab bench, the sun that seemed intent on burning his Irish skin, and the isolation that had turned the best minds in the world into a colony of brilliant, paranoid monks. He was here to build the weapon that would end the war. Theoretically, he believed in the mission. Practically, he was haunted by the faces of those who worked in the shadows of the project, miles away from the secure facility known as Site Y. Alistair was one of the few cleared to know about the Annex, a secondary, highly classified installation 20 miles west of Los Alamos, hidden within the jagged, unforgiving Jemez Mountains. Site Y handled the theory, the calculations, the core physics. The Annex handled the impossible material science and engineering, the means to contain and detonate the unprecedented power they were unleashing. And who manned the Annex? That was the secret. They were not American citizens. They were not even volunteers. They were Operation Starfall personnel, the most brilliant metallurgical, cryogenic, and high-precision engineering minds rescued from German-occupied Europe, but rescued was a generous term. One crisp night, Elias drove his jeep down a rough, unmarked track toward the annex. He carried schematics for the neutron initiator, the core component that required metallurgy so advanced it was beyond any American industrial capability at the time. Only one man, a former Berlin cryogenics professor named Dr. Marek Kowalski, possessed the theoretical and practical knowledge to pull it off. Elias passed through 3 layers of armed silent MP checkpoints. The final gate, disguised as a rusted-out mining shack, slid open to reveal a stark concrete compound nestled deep in a canyon. It looked less like a laboratory and more like a high-security penitentiary. Inside, the air was cold, even in August. Marek Kowalski was bent over a lathe, his face obscured by the arc of a precision grinding wheel. He was tall, gaunt, and his hands, once accustomed to chalk dust in lecture halls, were now calloused and stained with heavy-duty oil. "Marek," he whispered, leaning in. The silence in the small workshop was broken only by the whirring of the machinery. "The latest specs. General Groves is pushing. We need the U-235 casing perfectly spherical. Maximum tolerance is—" Marek didn't look up. His Polish accent was thick, overlaid with a permanent strain of exhaustion. "Does General Groves care if I sleep? Or if my wife, if anyone, hears from her?" Elias sighed, running a hand through his thinning hair. "You know the agreement. Absolute silence. Until the war is won. You and your team are designated non-existent personnel until then. For your own safety, Marek, and the project's." "Safety?" Marek finally straightened, wiping sweat and metal dust from his brow. His eyes were not angry, but devastatingly tired. "I was offered safety in exchange for my life's work. My people were promised immediate naturalization, reunion with family. Instead, we are prisoners. We build America's salvation while wearing its shackles." He gestured to the surrounding complex, a maze of identical dormitories, high fences, and armed guards. "We are 20 scientists and 40 engineers, Polish, Hungarian, Czech, even a few defector Germans. They call us volunteers. We have no identity, no passports, no payroll. We are the ghost labor that makes the gadget possible. Do you know what they tell me about my wife, who is still in hiding outside Krakow?" Elias head. He leaned in, his voice dropping to a raw, painful whisper. "They tell me she is safe, but that if I stop working, she will suddenly become unsafe." "That is not rescue, Elias. That is slavery, bought with the promise of a future that may never arrive." Marek was right. This was the dark underbelly of America's war effort. The most crucial scientific advancements, the high-vacuum engineering, the extreme temperature cryogenics, the high-purity metallurgy, were all being delivered by men and women held in a secret, undocumented facility. Their families were held as leverage, their existence wiped from every manifest, their contributions destined to be absorbed and claimed by American physicists and engineers who were merely overseeing their work. This was Operation Starfall, the mass recruitment through highly coercive means of the best minds of occupied Europe. It was the crucial, hidden gear that turned the theoretical gears of the Manhattan Project into an actual weapon. Elias had tried to resign, to protest the conditions. He was met with a chilling ultimatum: complicity or isolation. If he spoke, he wouldn't just be fired. He would disappear into the labyrinth of wartime security, his family threatened with communist sympathies. "Elias," Elias said, placing the blueprints on the workbench, "I can't change the war. I can't change Groves. But I can change this. I will record everything. Every name, every contribution, every promise broken. When the bomb drops, When the world is safe, I will make sure the real history is known." Mark looked at the detailed drawings, then back to Elias, a flicker of something close to hope in his weary eyes. "History is written by the victors, Elias, and the victors usually erase the shadows." "Then I will make a copy of the shadows. A testament, a bomb of truth targeted at the American conscience." That night, Alistair Vance began the meticulous, dangerous process of creating his secret record. He didn't use official channels. He used his personal notebooks, coded entries, and the safe deposit box of a trusted, obscure cousin in Albuquerque. He was documenting the names Kowalski, Popescu, Vogel, Steiner, Ivanova.